Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
I am completely pointless for this video, for this segment, but today Eric is going to do an overview for all 5 of the Mission Impossible movies that we have.
All 5 Mission Impossible
currently.
in a week.
He watched all of them. He just got on a thing. He just
got
on a binge.
I got the whole movie pack, and I was like, maybe I'll try and watch these before. And the thing is, I didn't even think I would do it. Like I was like, maybe I'll try and watch these before the movie comes out. And I was like, I'll probably end up watching like the first 2 and just like stopping, right?
Did you kind of get hooked, or?
Kind of. Yeah, it just became a thing I was doing. So
we're gonna see how much Eric can do in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll see where he is at 15, but I want to see if Eric can talk about 5 movies in 15
before
minutes.
we start the clock, I want to very briefly talk about my personal history with the franchise.
Yeah, it would be unfair to make you do that also within the 15 minutes.
So, when I'm a kid, I'm obsessed with the first movie.
And I should say, I'm not going to be winging in here at all, because not only did I not watch these this time, but I've never seen these.
No, you can't make it through the first movie.
I have fallen asleep 3 times trying to watch that movie. I have not been able to get through it.
So the first movie, as a kid, I think is like the coolest thing ever. Like, I watched that movie a lot. I'm also pretty sure there's a trailer for the Phantom on that VHS.
Wow.
Which was my only exposure with the Phantom for years.
96.
That's around the same time.
Yeah.
So the first film I'm obsessed with when I'm a kid. I just keep watching it. I still don't know why. This is a moody, noir-looking film, except for when it isn't. Because the big famous scene where like he lowers into the room, that just looks like what Mission Impossible looks like. But like the rest of this movie, like it was one of the first movies to shoot in Prague. So like there's just something about this movie that really appeals to me. I like spy stuff a lot when I'm a kid. I really loved like the masks and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So the second one comes out in 2000, so probably about 4 years later. And it's a big deal, and I go see it, and I'm really excited. And I've seen that movie a couple of times. And then, I think there's a 6-year gap. So if the first one comes out in 96, which I think it does,
yeah,
I'm 5. So I'm probably 6 or 7 when I first see it. I'm probably 9 or 10 when I see I see Mission Impossible 2 in theaters. So I'm 9 when I see Mission Impossible 2. And then 6 years go by. So I'm 15 when Mission Impossible 3 comes out, and I saw it, and I remember, and I literally do not know what I was talking about. My 15-year... This is also around the time that I walk out of the theater and say that Van Helsing is my favorite movie of all time. I remember walking out and saying, well, that just felt like watching the first and second movie at the same time. Which I was really interested to go back to, because that's basically my criticism of all of J.J. Abrams' films, is that they're just other movies inverted.
But it didn't have that?
It didn't. But I can tell when I talked about it.
You didn't know what you were talking
about?
No,
I did not know what I was talking about.
It's crazy to think you were 15, because like Enterprise's ending as that comes out, and the only thing the Star Trek website has to talk about is that oh no, I know what it is. It's not that Enterprise's ending. It's that the Star Trek website starts posting again when he gets picked for 09, and it's like, that's the guy that made Mission Impossible 3, and yeah.
So Mission Impossible 3 comes
that's
out,
what it was.
And I do end up seeing it in theaters because I kind of, like at this point, have a weird nostalgia connection to Mission Impossible franchise, but like it's not what it was. Like I've watched 2 a couple of times, maybe. I don't really go back to 1. Like, it's a thing I really loved when I was younger, but didn't have a connection to. I see 3, do not care. And then Ghost Protocol, I see on Netflix, like 2 years after it comes out. And I never watched Rogue Nation until this. So that's a brief overview of my relationship with this film franchise.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
So this is Eric's mission if he chooses to accept. Here we go. Starting the clock now.
Alright, so Mission Impossible 1 is a really weird movie. It is simultaneously trying to be like a set-piece action spectacular, but also it's directed by Brian De Palma and feels like it wants to be a small, moody, noir-y, like everyone's backstabbing everyone kind of a piece. And I don't know if it actually all fits together. One of the interesting things about rewatching this film was it's a movie that I hadn't seen in a long time, but I'd seen so many times. Like, there was no moment where I was like, oh, I forgot that happened. Like, nothing surprised me. Like, I remembered everything. It's okay. If not, I don't know. Like, I don't think the ending works at all. I think the big twist, I don't. It's really lackluster. Like, it's just like, I mean, screw it. I'll spoil things. Like, why not?
Yeah, sure.
So the leader of the IMF, which is the Impossible Missions Force, which is the organization that Ethan Hunt works for. So the leader of the IMF, who was the main character of the TV show, he dies at the beginning. If you don't know the plot of Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt is deployed with his team to get the knock list, which is a list of, basically there are two lists that the CIA keeps that are all of their spies, and there's a corresponding list that is all of their code names. If you get both lists, you know all the spies and all the code names. So if someone has one of the lists, they're trying to stop the other half of the list being gotten. They say one side of the list is useless without the other. I disagree. Because if that's the names they're going under, just go kill those people. And if that's their real names, just go kill those people. I don't see how it's, like, either side of that list seems real effective. We have Emilio Estevez. He's like the wacky one on the team.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Emilio Estevez in that movie. He's like the wacky hacker who has the most violent death I've ever seen in a PG-13 movie, where the elevator goes up and this claw thing comes down and there's a split-second shot of it going into his face.
That's one of the only parts I remember.
It is... That opening section with them is so, like, weirdly 90s. Where, like, it thinks it's hip and cool, and I think it dates weirdly, like, just the dialogue and, like, the banter. And so John Voight, who, just so everyone knows, John Voight in Mission Impossible 1 is the age Tom Cruise is now. Which is mind-blowing. He plays the leader, and he dies. They all die. Whereas, as Tom Cruise puts it, they're dead! They're all dead! And like, he gets framed for killing all of them. But it's weird because, like, there's this whole thing where he says, where he goes to the guy who, like, was running the operation, and he's like it was a mole hunt. The list was never actually in jeopardy. It was just a mole hunt. We thought there was someone. We thought there was a double agent, and you're the only one left. And so he goes on the run, starting a large trend of Mission Impossible movies not actually being about missions, because I think only 2 is actually a mission. Which is why it's hilarious in the trailer for the new movie, where they're like, how many times can a country turn against a man before he snaps? I'm like, I don't know. Up to this point, 4. That's how many times he can be a fugitive from the law before he starts thinking the law might not be right. So he goes back to the rendezvous point. It's a hotel or something. I forget. It's really elaborate and gothic. And then this woman shows up who's part of the team, and she's like, no, we said that we were going to rendezvous here at 3 o'clock in the morning, and whatever. And I was like, okay, the second there's another person that was on that team, you go back to the CIA and say, hey, look, there's 2 of us. But the big reveal at the end is that John Voight's the bad guy. And I don't know, 1, why he reveals himself when he does, and 2, his explanation you can only infer by the motivation he puts to the leader of the CIA, which is, so there's a scene where for no reason he meets Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise, at like a train station or something, and he says, like, or maybe it's an airport. There's a great pre-9/11 sequence where they're like, how are we gonna catch him? Because they're talking about, like, getting Ethan Hunt, and the leader of the CIA is like, how are we gonna catch him? What are we gonna do? Put a guy at the airport? Because I don't know if anyone remembers what I know our viewers tend to be younger than us. You used to be able to just go to an airport.
Yeah. Like,
there weren't check-in points. You could walk and just hang out in an airport. I thought that was really funny. Like, that dates this movie a lot.
Yeah.
But so, he meets John Voight, and John Voight suggests the CIA guy is kind of going stir-crazy because the Cold War's over. And that now there's no reason for him to do what he's doing, and so it's just driving him a little bit mad, and he's kind of angry that he used to be in control of the government to some degree. Like, he was telling the president exactly what to do and pull the strings and stuff like that, right? Because it was the Cold War, and he was advising and things like that. And now he's not doing that. He's no longer in control. And he's a government employee, so he wasn't getting paid enough, right? Like, he just wants to retire now if he's not going to be in control of everything. And I think I'm supposed to take that is John Voight's motivation. Everything he says the CIA director's doing, I think I'm supposed to believe is John Voight's motivation. But if it's not, I have no idea why he does anything he does. The train chase holds up incredibly. Not train chase, the train fight. I don't know if you know that. The end of that movie takes place on top of a train, kind of like Speed. But it's outside. That's the first big Tom Cruise does an insane stunt thing. Yeah. He's not on an actual moving train, but apparently he demanded the fans that they used to simulate the speed be so powerful that he could be pushed off of the train, and it would like ripple his skin. Like, he wanted it to look real. It holds up okay. It's not a masterpiece, but it's okay. Mission Impossible 2, most people consider it to be the worst in the franchise. I think it's a masterpiece. I think if everyone can stop for a second and take themselves out of right now, where we are all so super self-aware and like we take ourselves like so seriously, like we have to make fun of everything and like everything's dumb, right? Like, that's kind of where we are right now. Mission Impossible 2 is the movie that all of the 90s were building to. Like, if you asked me to make a movie that was just 90s action movie, the movie, it is Mission Impossible 2. It is the pinnacle of everything. It's amazing how unself-aware, unironically just 90s cool. The opening scene of this film is Tom Cruise. Well, actually, okay. So there's a cold open, but like after the credits, whatever. Tom Cruise, just freebasing, climbing a cliff. No harnesses, nothing to catch him. This is just what this guy does for fun. He's just climbing a cliff. And he gets to the top of the cliff, there's a helicopter, they shoot a missile at him. And the missile hits the ground, and the missile opens up, and there's sunglasses inside. And Tom Cruise takes out the sunglasses, and he puts them on, and it gives him like his mission or whatever, right? And he said, and it goes, your mission, if you choose to accept it, this will explode in 10 seconds. And he throws the sunglasses at the screen in slow motion as they explode and credits begin. That's the movie you're watching, and like, it's never not that. It's just that for 2 hours, which is something I have to commend all of these films on. They're almost all like a tight 2 hours. Like, the last two are like 2:10 and 2:14. Like, that's how long. Like, that's the longest this franchise gets. I really appreciate that, in that they're supposed to be dumb, expendable, fun action movies. They're not super cerebral. I will say, I watched a little bit of the documentary from the behind the scenes of Mission Impossible 2, and it's hilarious, because there's a scene that I think is the single worst scene in the entire movie, and Tom Cruise says, well, also, Mission Impossible 2 is written by Robert Towne, who wrote Chinatown, which is insane, because the plot of this movie is a scientist he made, like, a cure for a virus, and also the virus, and, like, he talks about, like, chaos, and like the way he explains it is, I think, in trying to create a cure for something, he accidentally creates a virus. And that's what I thought it was until he explains it, and I'm like, wait, he just made a virus and then also made a cure for that virus, but acted like it was this great mythic tragedy. Like, we just, science can only do what it does, and I'm like, this makes way more sense if you accidentally made this virus. You made this virus on purpose. So the worst scene what I think is the worst scene in this movie is the scene that they show a clip from when Tom Cruise says, what's great about the script is how sophisticated it is and like how smart it is, and it shows a clip for the scene. So Tom Cruise goes and gets this lady spy who's played by Tandy Newton, who Zoe Saldana has the career she should have. There's a couple of these where I'm still convinced that what's his name from G.I. Joe and Magic Mike, he has the career that Chris Pine should have had. we're like, I don't know how that happened, but he had the career I thought Chris Pine was going to have. Tayne Newton is the better Zoe Saldana. She's in Riddick. She's great. So she's this like gorgeous, sexy like cat thief, right? And Ethan Hunt has to recruit her for the mission. We're told at the beginning, you can pick whoever you want for this mission, but the fourth member has to be this girl. And he thinks he's recruiting her for a cat thief thing. He's not. It's because she used to date the evil villain. So he goes and he gets her and they sleep together, and he finds out that he has to send her in with the evil ex-boyfriend, right? And he tells her they have slept together once. They spent one night together, and it was like yesterday. And he tells her that like he needs her for a mission, and she goes, and she's like, I thought somewhere in all of this it got personal, and not just physical. And he says, would it help if I told you I didn't want you to, or would it make you feel better if I told you that I didn't want you to do this? And she goes, yes, much better. He goes, then feel better. That's the scene that they use to show the sophisticated it is. It's a movie. It's like 2 hours long, and like at least 20 minutes of that is slow motion, and like it's just like glorious and beautiful slow motion. It's directed by John Woo, and I'm gonna say it's his best American film, if only because Face Off is like 4 hours longer than it should be. It's not, but it feels long. So
that I also had a hard time not falling asleep during.
It's rough. It's too long. It's way too long. It's a really fun movie that's way too long. But so we do these things. We're like so we play with the mask thing more than we do in any other movie, and that's really fun. We even use the mask thing because obviously Tom Cruise is like a spy, right? Like he wears suits and whatnot. We need to get him in a leather jacket for the final action scene, because he needs to be in a leather jacket for the final action scene. So he pretends to be the bad guy's minion who wears a leather jacket, and he takes it off. He's like, haha, it was Tom Cruise the whole time. But the bad guy also sometimes pretends to be Tom Cruise. So like, you have a thing where like they're each other, and like we're basically told that the bad guy was trained to be Tom Cruise if Tom Cruise ever like was like on vacation or something, right? Like he is the Tom Cruise temp. But he went evil, which is a reoccurring thing, by the way. Almost all of the villains in this movie come from IMF, or in the series come from IMF.
Of course they do.
So he's like evil Tom Cruise. Also, chose to do this movie instead of playing Wolverine in X-Men.
Wow.
Yeah, thank God. Because he's not bad. He is not Hugh Jackman. So this movie's just like crazy, and really, it's a John Woo movie. It's operatic and melodramatic before it's drama and like characters. And if you know that going in, and I think people have trouble with that. I really think that we've gotten to a place where we're so self-serious about everything, we have to make fun of everything, we can't take melodrama its own turns. This is a really heightened movie. The end of this movie, the final action scene in this movie...
Like the first one wasn't that?
No, it's a completely different thing. But so almost every one of these movies are a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Because the third movie is also completely different.
Was it hated when it came out?
Highest grossing film of 2000.
Okay, but was it
Roger Ebert said it like did everything the first movie did but better.
Wow.
No, it was a liked movie when it came out.
Okay.
It is. I also love that it came out in 2000. It is the most 2000 movie that could have come out in 2000. The final action scene.
Oh sure, because X-Men came out in 2000.
99.
X-Men actually comes out in 2000.
I thought it came out in 99. I thought we always get that wrong.
I always get it wrong the other way, where I think it's 99, but it's actually 2000.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, the final action scene of this movie is two guys on motorcycles driving at each other. Then, they both do wheelies, and they go back down, and keep driving at each other. Then, at the same time, leap off of their motorcycles at each other, grab each other midair, while their motorcycles collide and create a huge explosion in the air. Like, it's insane. People are so hard in this movie, and it's just this ridiculous, over-the-top, like, 90s action movie masterpiece. Like, if you don't like the 90s, if you go back to the 90s, you roll your eyes at every single movie, every single action movie. You're not gonna like it. But if you do, this is the apex of all of that. This is the pinnacle of everything that is the 90s. It's amazing. It's 15 minutes, so I totally failed on this.
Yes.
Yep. So,
I got through 2.
Also, Anthony Hopkins is in this movie?
You didn't quite get through 2.
Just Anthony Hopkins is in it? He's the guy who gives him the missions?
Okay.
For no reason.
That's hilarious.
He never comes back.
Never comes back?
I don't know why they got Anthony Hopkins. He's just in this movie. Highly recommend Mission Impossible 2. It's a great time. Mission Impossible 3 is my least favorite of the whole franchise.
Okay.
It's also
not super surprising to me because I know you're not a big fan of Abrams.
It's the movie. Watching it, I realized that J.J. Abrams' directing style is less sexy Michael Bay.
Wow.
Because it's the first time, or at least the first time in a while, where I looked at him just in, like, the real world, and he shoots it exactly like Michael Bay. It looks like a Transformers movie. And then that made me think of Super 8, which is also shot like a Michael Bay movie.
Shaky cam and stuff like that?
Not shaky cam, but like...
Does he just shoot stuff
the glory shot, like everyone might as well be orange, like...
Yeah.
Just, it looks like a Michael Bay movie.
Does he shoot from the ground a lot?
Yeah. I mean, less so in the directing style as much as the lighting, and like... Even the lens flare thing, like... When put in the modern day setting, I'm like, that feels like a Michael Bay thing.
He's not shooting or pretending to shoot giant robots. You know?
No, he's not. No, it's probably closer to something like Bad Boys. But yeah, no, it feels like a Michael Bay movie. If I hadn't seen 5, I would say that the villain of this, who's Philip Seymour Hoffman, is the best villain in the movie, but entirely based on performance. Like, I think on the page, and it's written by Kurtzman Orsi, which I will say this is their best screenplay. I was wrong when I said... was it Amazing Spider-Man 2 was their best screenplay? This is their best screenplay. The bad guy is played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, who I think on the page is probably nothing. He is so menacing and so terrifying, which is weird, because you know who Philip Seymour Hoffman is? He's just like a middle-aged, like, tubby guy. Like, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away a couple of years ago, but if he hadn't, if we were going to remake Goldfinger, he would be the perfect Goldfinger. He's so scary in this movie. He's so intense. There's a point where Tom Cruise, like, holds him out of like a plane. Like, they open up the plane door, and he's got him in a chair. He's holding him, like, outside the plane. He's like, where are the trucks going? Like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman's just sitting there. Just face, not break, does not break. Like, he's haunting. Bad dreams about Philip Seymour Hoffman moving forward in my life. This movie. So what I found is that this franchise is actually 2 franchises. We have 3 movies that are 3 completely different movies in almost 3 completely different genres.
That we're pretending like we're in the same continuity?
Yeah, so remember that in Mission Impossible 2, what this guy does, like, for fun, is he, like, freebases, climbs mountains with his fingers. Right? Like, that's what this guy does. When we get to 3, he's just a dude, like, he's got a fiance, they have, like, a house party, like, it's like the J.J. Abrams version of...
consistent with who the characters are.
No. I mean, to be fair, I believe that the guy from 1 can get to this point. It's just that 2's there, and 2's not really consistent with 1. Like, 2 is... I will also say, 2 is the best Pierce Brosnan action movie after GoldenEye. Or the best Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie after GoldenEye. Like, it's better than Spawn of Die, it's better than it's way better than Die Another Day, and the other one. The World's Not Enough.
World's Not Enough, yeah.
So,
that's great.
This movie is, it's good. Like, if I were to put these in a list, it is at my bottom. That does not mean I don't like the movie. It's a bad movie. I don't think any of these movies are bad. I think this is a solid movie. It also introduces Michelle Monaghan to the franchise, who is an actress I like quite a bit. I did not remember that was Ethan Hunt's wife. And it's weird when you get to the next one, because they get married at the end of this, like, it's a whole thing, and, like, his wife gets kidnapped. It's really intense. It's good. Like, they're all good. This one's good. It's fine. And Ving Rhames, this is the last one, I think. He's a main character. And no, he's main character in Rogue Nation. We give him a break for a movie. So, there's this weird thing where, like, this is kind of a trilogy of, like, 3 movies called Mission Impossible starring Tom Cruise playing a character named Ethan Hunt. They don't,
totally different.
They don't really fit together. which I think is a really interesting way to do a franchise.
Yeah.
That, like, you bring in different writers and directors, and they all have their complete own take on it. I think that's a cool way to do something, especially to keep it from being formulaic or
we keep reinventing it every like few movies.
Yeah, and it keeps it from being formulaic, although it is formulaic, almost unintentionally, or like. It keeps it from exactly being like these are the things and like these are the beats you do in a. I go into Mission Impossible movie knowing that this is going to happen. The only thing I go into Mission Impossible movie knowing is that Tom Cruise is going to do some insane crazy stunt because it goes all the way back to the first one. Yeah. Like the second one has a crazy stunt, the third one has a crazy stunt, and also that they're
how many of them are on planes?
I think just the one.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of any, but that doesn't mean that they didn't happen. I just can't.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, I don't know how much of the stunts he actually does, which is the thing I've said about the trailer for the new one, which is, I just assume he's doing all of it. Like I keep getting told how many like of the stunts he's really doing. I just assume he does all the stunts.
You know, he did enough that he got hurt real bad.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So 3. Feels like, I guess, an end to the franchise, in that it's not an end to the franchise at all, but, like, feels like a resolution to that character because he gets married, and, like, there is literally... It literally ends with him leaving, because also in this movie, which we will forget in the next 2 movies, he's retired, and he's a teacher. He teaches spies. He's not an active field agent.
Oh, okay.
And one of his students, dies. And they hold him accountable for it, and so he has to go rogue, and bring in Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's the one that killed his student, and he leaves like his people, and it's him and his wife who have gone and gotten married. They were gonna have like a big wedding, but they just went and got married at like a chapel or whatever, right? And like Vegas, but not, just like they just went and got married, and this movie ends literally with the 2 of them with their arms around each other, walking down the hall, smiling, freeze frame.
Freeze frame?
Freeze frame.
That might have been
or at least like Shudder slow motion.
That might have been an homage to something in the TV show.
Maybe. I'm not sure. So then we get Ghost Protocol, which is almost a retooling and reboot of the franchise without actually rebooting continuity. Ghost Protocol sets the model for what the franchise is moving forward.
So they don't keep changing tone completely.
No.
After
So
3?
Rogue Nation feels like a continuation of Ghost Protocol, not necessarily plot wise, but like we 4 movies in, we figured out what this franchise is.
Okay.
And Fallout looks like it's a continuation, both plot and tonally, of Rogue Nation, and it's written and directed by the same guy.
Which is the first time that's happened.
Yes. This is the first time there's ever been a repeat. So Ghost Protocol is Brad Bird. It's his first
live action thing.
It's his first live action film. It's disappointing he doesn't write it.
Yeah, sure.
I forget who does write it, but it's a good writer. This one is good. It's also the least memorable plot-wise. I remember a lot of the set pieces, but like plot-wise, it's the one I'm the fuzziest on. They blow up the Kremlin, but it's not them, it's the bad guys, and they think that Ethan Hunt did it. What's weird is the president is afraid of getting bad press for that, so they shut down IMF. Now, one of the things that we know about the Mission Impossible franchise, or about the IMF, is that every time they get a mission, they're told that if they're caught, the government will deny any knowledge of their activities.
Right.
So somehow they're afraid of bad press for an organization that they don't acknowledge exists.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. So the president institutes Ghost Protocol, which is...
It sounds... Wait a minute.
The president...
They already have that.
What do you mean?
Well, like, it basically is already a Ghost Protocol.
Well,
like, they kind of already have that.
Well, Ghost Protocol is...
Okay, sorry.
The president institutes Ghost Protocol, which is... disbands the IMF. We just came up with a cool name for they don't exist anymore. So Ethan Hunt goes rogue, with a team in
sensing a pattern.
Yeah, including Jeremy Renner, who is a really interesting character. So there's like a weird mystery that I actually really like because it's playing with the audience. Because at the beginning of this, Ethan Hunt does not have a wife. And there's like a real... like, it feels like they just forgot. Until like halfway through the movie where we start talking about his wife and you're like, oh, they remember that he got married last movie. And what we find out is that Jeremy Renner knows Ethan Hunt and feels responsible for the death of his wife. Because he was stationed to protect this couple. And he didn't tell... He wanted to tell... him and his team are following this couple in this other country. And he said he just had this overwhelming urge to like tell the couple that they were in danger. He wasn't allowed to, but he wanted to tell them. And the husband goes to like the store or something, and Jeremy Renner follows him. And when the husband comes back, the team has been dispatched and the woman is dead. And he was like, if I just told them that, like, if I just told the husband that like they were in danger, like maybe things would have worked out differently. We find out that the husband was Ethan Hunt.
Okay.
But we then find out that all of that is a lie.
Oh.
Not that Jeremy Renner was lying, but that he was lied to. It was all staged so that Ethan Hunt could pretend to go undercover and like not have attachments. Like, it's a whole thing where they're just like, well, we want people to think that you've gone rogue because you wouldn't do that. So we want people to think that you've gone rogue and you went off and killed these guys that killed your wife, and that's why he's in the prison at the beginning of the movie. But he didn't actually go kill those guys, it was all fake. But he's also not with his wife anymore because life is, I think the implication, because last scene of this movie is he like sees his wife from afar and they just kind of wave. I think the impression is like his life's too dangerous for her, so like they can't be together, but like from afar they still like love each other kind of thing. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Least memorable villain in the entire franchise. Really boring. Also, the cheesiest line in the entire franchise, but then the movie acknowledges how dumb it is. This point where Tom Cruise hits a button on a keyboard, and he says, "Mission accomplished!" And if I remember correctly, it didn't even, like, that wasn't even the end of the movie. Like, it didn't work. But then later, Ving Rhames, who's not in this one, but just shows up at the end, is like, "Did you really say that? Did you really say mission accomplished?" Like, it's great.
What's the line in this is a real political thing for me to bring up, but what was the line in Deadpool 2 in a George Bush kind of way? Was the mission accomplished? She's like, yeah, in a George W. kind of way. So this movie is really fun. It's a real spectacle. The outside of the building thing, because the big stunt from this one was that Tom Cruise got outside of a building and climbed up. They sold it on that.
Yeah. It's like the cover for the movie. Really impressive. Like, it's a real impressive spectacle. Obviously, we know from Incredibles that Brad Bird likes these kinds of movies. He shoots it great. It's a really fun movie. Then we get to Rogue Nation, which I think is the best of the franchise. Much like the Fast and Furious, as I've been told about the Fast and Furious franchise, and I mean like most franchises, right? 5 is where you hit your stride. 5 is where you really peak.
Not true for Star Trek. Clearly.
So
not true for Jurassic Park.
But
we just had that.
If you put them in chronological order, it is true for Star Wars. Because Empire is 5.
That's true.
It didn't know it at the time.
That's true, but if you don't put it in chronological,
no, it's the worst one because it's Attack Clones.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
I'm just gonna sit here and think of franchises for the next 5 movies. Sorry.
So 5 is Rogue Nation, where we bring in an evil organization called the Syndicate. Oh, that's another thing, is that at the end of Ghost Protocol, Ethan Hunt gets a phone call that says, all of the drones in the whole world are being taken over by this organization called the Syndicate. And I didn't remember that, and I was like, oh, it's setting up the next movie. Except that the next movie does not deal with drones, and no one believes the Syndicate exists. So
they're
not
still
really
not talking to each other great, but
no.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So are they playing that like they're Spectre or something?
Yes, and here's what's interesting, is the Syndicate is in fact the bad guys in the TV show. Basically what happens...
It took them 5 movies to get there.
Yeah, well, and what's weird is, because the first movie acts like it's a continuation of the TV show. But this movie acts like it's introducing the Syndicate. So, we're basically now retroactively just saying the movie's already rebooted. We pretended that they were a continuation when we first started making them, but that's ridiculous. This whole thing is its own franchise. It's a reboot of the... But it is cool that they're still going back to the TV show.
Yeah.
From my understanding, basically the TV show originally dealt with like Cold War politics and things, and then as that started to heat up, they didn't really want to be dealing with that, so they invented a fake, organization.
Sure.
Which is the Syndicate. The Syndicate is fascinating. The Syndicate is a group of, they're just ex-spies. Because all the villains in the Mission Impossible movies are spies. Usually ex-IMF, but not exclusively. The
moral of the story is, you always create your own villain, so don't be a hero.
It's basically... It's really interesting. It's not explored great. I will say blanket statement about this franchise, especially the last two. They are what the James Bond movies want to be. And what maybe James Bond movies should be. Not what I want from them, but maybe what they should be. They figured out how to... the Mission Impossible films have figured out how to make fun, engaging films that aren't insulting, but also aren't broody or overly realistic. They are making what we think of as James Bond movies.
They're not heavy-handed.
They're not heavy-handed. They're smart enough. They're not... I won't say they're smart, but they're smart enough. You're not insulted, and you get to watch a really cool action spectacle. So Syndicate is made of ex-spies who are, like kind of... I want to say burned, but burned's the wrong word because burned is actually a term we use in spy culture. There's a whole show about it called Burn Notice.
Oh, that's what that means.
Burned is when you like completely cut off someone. So like if you're my agent and I'm done with you, I will like delete all of your information, all of your credit card information, like all of your money, and drop you somewhere. Like you're burned. You're discommunicated from the. So the Syndicate is built up of ex-spies who are disenfranchised with their governments, and these are people who have been trained their entire lives to destabilize nations, and they're anti-government, like just the idea of government, not any nationality. Like they are anti-government because there are people that worked for governments, and they just basically all think like, well, governments are awful. Like they do horrible things. They've had us do horrible things. We just should get rid of them.
So are they sort of anarchists, or they want to replace it with their own thing, or...
I don't know.
Okay.
I just know they don't like government.
Sure.
The villain is great. He's got this real weird, distinct voice that also feels very Bondian. It's almost a whisper.
They're doing that with the next one, too.
Because he's in it.
Is that him?
It's the same guy.
Oh.
He's like in chains or something in that. So his name is Solomon Lane. And he was a syndicate that fights IMF, which stands for Impossible Mission Force, that's run by Ethan Hunt. But he's got this like whisper thing, and it's kind of like a Bane voice thing, where like initially I'm like, this is kind of silly, right? Silly. Like I'm not sure about this. And then it grew on me.
The new one, yeah.
Yeah. At least in Rogue Nation, it grew on me. Jeremy Renner's back. He is unfortunately he's not back for the next one, but he is back for Rogue Nation. Rogue Nation is. So Rogue Nation isn't actually better than Skyfall, but putting James Bond movies in the box of what they're supposed to be, Rogue Nation is the best James Bond movie that's come out since GoldenEye. Like it's just this big, fun, not dumb action movie. It's not super smart. It's not super sophisticated. It has these amazing set pieces. It's just a really fun time, and also considerably more brutal than at least the last couple, like maybe since the first one. It goes to some places that I didn't expect it to go to. Also, it has the best like message recording, like this will self-destruct thing. So it's, I love the like weird cyclical nature of everything. He has to go to a record store and buy a record and play it on a record player because records are hip now, and that's
like a collectible vinyl record that will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
It's great.
So I'm assuming they do one of those in every movie.
Yes. they're not always like super clever about it. Like,
but there's always something.
Yeah, there's always. It's in some way they get a mission and oh, okay.
Even though you said that most of them aren't about an actual mission.
No, so in this movie, we do something really interesting in that basically after the first act, we time skip. It's 6 months or a year later. Ethan Hunt goes dark because no one believes that the Syndicate exists, and he's convinced it does, and he knows it does because they tried to kill him, and they think that because Alec Baldwin's in this movie, Alec Baldwin believes.
Cool.
Alec Baldwin believes, and he's in the new one too. Alec Baldwin believes he's someone for the CIA, and Alec Baldwin believes that Ethan Hunt is. I think it's like he believes he's setting up his own missions. Like he can't deal with that. There's nothing to do, so he's making up a ghost thing to keep himself occupied. Like I think that's what Alec Baldwin. Like he's just gone crazy. Like he's been doing his missions for so long, he doesn't know how to not do them. He's gone crazy. So Alec Baldwin's great because he shuts down the IMF, which is where we time skip. He shuts down the IMF because we don't need the IMF anymore in that whole thing.
Do they
right?
call it Ghost Protocol again?
No, he just shuts it down.
Shuts it down.
And it's this great sequence because Jeremy Renner's there, and he keeps saying these things to Jeremy Renner because at this point there is no. I think it's the Secretary of Defense that they respond to. IMF reports to like one person, and it's a secretary of something, and that person's dead. So Alec Baldwin, it's a big court hearing, and Alec Baldwin keeps saying things. He's like, so this happened in movie 1, and that's ridiculous, and this happened in movie 3, and that's ridiculous. And every time he says something to Jeremy Renner just says, I'm not allowed to say anything except to the Secretary, of Defense or whatever. Just that is his response to everything. Is I'm unable to discuss without the permission of the Secretary. That's like a 5-minute scene where he just keeps bringing up like all the continuity, all the ridiculous things. There's a really cool callback to the first one where like Ethan Hunt had to go get information for something in the first one called Max. He had to put on this like mask that like I thought was really iconic from like the first one from like when I was a kid. And, like he wears it. Like these movies are aware that the other movies exist. And that
Even though they don't all really fit.
Yeah, they don't really fit, but like they remember. They call back, and I thought that was fun. But so, basically, so Alec Baldwin doesn't believe that the IMF should exist anymore. It's kind of the Skyfall debate, but on a much larger and more absurd scale. And then throughout the course of it, Alec Baldwin is taken on this rollicking adventure with Ethan Hunt, who he believes is a crazy person who's gone.
Is it as much about the times though they are a changing, or like Skyfall is?
It's more about the absurdity of action movies.
Oh, cool. It's
kind of like Civil War, where they're like, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and maybe we don't need the IMF.
Like I'm just a guy with a bow and arrow. Yeah, none of this makes sense.
Yeah. So he's flying. So then at the end of the movie, he discovers that the Syndicate does in fact exist. Solomon Lane is in fact a real person, and he's like masterminding all this stuff. And Ethan Hunt saves him, and we go back to before, like a big legal thing before, like Congress or whatever. And Alec Baldwin is basically giving the exact opposite speech. I was wrong. We do need these people, and that's. And then we end that scene, and we just pan over, and there's Jeremy Renner. He's like, I'm unable to say anything without. But so Alec Baldwin becomes that secretary, so he is now their boss, and it looks like we're going to keep that at least for the next movie. It's really fun. I really liked it. So almost triple the time I said I could do with it.
That's impressive. You talked about
five movies.
Yeah, 40 minutes.
Yep.
A little more in depth than I expected you to go. So
I
that's
didn't
why that
mean
happened.
to,
but no, that's all right. But you had things that came to you that you want to talk about. It just happens
when I talk. But yeah, so to almost, I will say, kind of to my shock, there was not a bad one in the bunch. I think they're all good. If I had to rank them, I would do Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol, and that's nice too. They're broken up. We're like, I think the franchise kind of soft reboots. They change. They're not numbers anymore. Yeah. So Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol, 2, 1, 3, but like those aren't hard numbers. Like I think they're all enjoyable films. I think if you want to watch the new one, or really you just want to watch these movies, you can start with Ghost Protocol. You can just watch Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation. That's what this franchise is now.
Sure.
I also highly recommend everyone goes and watch Mission Impossible 2 because it's amazing. It's absurd.
You have to like 90s action.
You have to like 90s action. You have to go in going, I'm going to see the most 90s action.
If you don't like True Lies, don't see that movie.
Yeah. I think it's more 90s action than The Matrix. I'm not saying it's not a better movie. It is not a better movie than The Matrix. But it is more 90s than The Matrix.
Wow. That's saying something, man.
Yeah.
Because that is a really, wow.
It is the most 90s action movie that a 90s action movie could be. That came out in 2000. Like, it's a perfect cap off to that decade of action movies. It's wonderful. It's so sleek. It's so sleek. But no, they're all good. They're all good. Varying qualities of good, but I don't think any of them are bad. It's really impressive.
Well, I mean, that explains why you kept rolling with them.
Yeah. I'd recommend all of them to people. Like, they're surprisingly. I didn't realize, just going through all of them, I'm like, that's a really good franchise. This is a real solid franchise. 5 movies, not a misstep. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't think 2 is a misstep, but as far as I'm concerned, not a misstep. And nobody thought 2 was a misstep at the time. Retrospectively, we're all cynical and self-aware and ironic. But no, it's really impressive franchise they pulled together. I don't think people realize this. Like, I feel like they put together a really solid slate of films while no one was paying attention.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I didn't even realize there were that many until you started talking about these, and I was like, wait, the next one is 6?
Yeah, the next one's 6.
But I thought it was 5. I was like, oh, they have a lot.
I don't know how many more Tom Cruise can do, especially if he got seriously hurt on this next one.
Yeah.
What I want, and I'm not the first person to say this or think of this, but what I want...
Because there's 3 trilogies now, that's basically.
Well, it's 2 trilogies. 1, 2, 3.
I meant to say, did I say 3?
Yeah.
I mean, but it's 2 trilogies now.
What I want is the last movie of Tom Cruise to make Tom Cruise the bad guy. And go back to the John Voight thing.
Because he's, lost his mind.
Yeah. Well, just
he hasn't kept his mind alive.
Just for the symmetry, where John Voight's supposed to be the main character in the TV show and he's the bad guy.
Right.
I want Tom Cruise to be the bad guy for the last Tom Cruise movie.
Well, it sounds like he's gone through enough stuff you could buy it. You know?
I could totally buy it. He goes rogue every movie. The government just keeps not believing him and betraying him.
I mean, it sounds like a Jack Bauer kind of thing.
It is a Jack Bauer kind of a thing. But if Jack Bauer was in, a super spy world where there's, awesome technology. Oh, also, I didn't mention Simon Pegg at all. Simon Pegg is in 3, 4, and 5. Delightful.
Really?
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I like Simon Pegg in general. Really. So he's just like the tech guy in 3. But in 4 and 5, in Ghost Protocol Rogue Nation, he becomes a field agent, so he's actively part of the cast. He's great. He's really funny.
Is he kind of like the Joe Pesci of that franchise, sort of?
Yeah, kind of. He's the kind of mousy, funny guy who doesn't do the physical stuff.
Yeah.
He's not as annoying. I mean, Joe Pesci's supposed to be annoying. That's part of that character.
Right, yeah.
But he's not as intentionally annoying as that.
We're talking Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. But no, he's... Yeah. Also, I hope the girl from... So, there's a girl in Ghost Protocol. She's really interesting. I'm kind of bummed she doesn't come back for Rogue Nation. But then the girl in Rogue Nation is even more interesting. And I hope she comes back for Fallout, because there's a whole thing with... She was like a triple agent, so it's a whole thing. But it's really good.
I'll try to watch at least those last 2 before Fallout. Cause
I think they're both on Netflix.
I'd like to see that with you.
Or at least Ghost Protocol is on Netflix, or was.
Those sound cool.
I mean,
I'm not the biggest spy guy, but those sound fun.
Yeah, I mean, it almost doesn't matter. They're almost not spy movies as much as they're, heist movies, but not criminals. Every movie has the scene where it's like, alright, so, what you gotta do is, you're gonna have to drop through a propeller that's spinning at 4,000 miles per hour, but once every 6 seconds it stops and you can get through there in that 6-second gap. And then there's pressure jets that if they hit you, it'll sear the skin off your flesh. But if you're going fast enough, it won't affect you. And then at the bottom of that chute is a diamond that controls all these lasers. And if you just turn that, you can access the mainframe. Every movie has that scene, and they perfectly execute that, or, well, not perfectly.
Is that one that actually happens, or did you
just make
I
just made up things.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
There is a thing in 2 that's kind of like that, where it's a rotating fan, for 5 minutes a day, this fan's not rotating. He just has to go straight through it, and there's a cord through it, and he's not back up within the time period. It's gonna cut the cord and pull him up and chop him into. It's great. It's really fun.
That's hilarious.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, Eric, thanks for telling us about him, buddy. 5 whole movies.
5
well
movies.
done.
Yep.
That is some kind of record. We've never seen Eric review 5 movies in a row all by himself. Congratulations. That was amazing. Started as a handshake, turned into whatever. Anyway, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Sure appreciate it.
I thought you just low fiving.
Eric and I it was a low 5. Eric and I are going to move on now with the omnibus. We're almost finished. We got just a couple more things left to do. If you want to continue on with us and you're watching the playlist, the next thing we're going to do is he made me watch. Eric made me watch a movie, and you can find out which one it is by going to the next video. But you can probably see it and then see already what it is. So anyway, we're gonna go do that right now. Thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pointless Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
See you, folks.